Or New Line is. I know New Line definitely is, but is Lionsgate independent? Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I want to talk about this whole Paramount thing because we're seeing a lot of stuff develop in the USA. Paramount's getting sued because they're trying to stop this merger with Warner Brothers. And it might not be the worst thing now. Now, a lot of you may remember I was very pro let's have this merger take place because I'm honestly think that Warner Brothers were going to always sell. Like, it would have been better than going to Netflix because we all know Netflix don't really do physical media. And I'm a big physical media fan. So I was very pro Paramount put out their movies on physical media. There may at least be a chance to keep physical media there. That was my mentality when I made the video. However, we are starting to see now Paramount's kind of throwing a tantrum of some sorts. Now, David Ellison, I think he wants to truly make movies. Let's say that up front. I think his idea is, let's make movies, let's buy another studio, let's build a streaming service that has everything on it again, or as much as we can put on there. One service, let's have the public do that. Maybe that's the idea. But the competition thing is the problem. They will hold more than 30% of the market. In Australia, we have something similar where a company by the name of News Corporation, headed by the Murdoch family, you may know them as the guys who also owned or may still own Fox. You look at that and say, okay, they couldn't control a certain portion of the market. Channel 7, I believe, had the same thing. 7 West Media couldn't expand beyond a certain point. This is why we had competition in the regions like WIN, and we had compensation like Southern Cross and stuff like that inland. Local competitors can't compete with monopolies. I understand that. I understand when you put an A24 movie out, people are going to go see it, but it may be hard to stand up against a juggernaut like a Top Gun or Paramount and then Disney, then Paramount, then Disney, two major behemoths constantly releasing. So I get it. We have a duopoly in Australia. We have, our supermarket is a duopoly, Coles and Woolworths. So I understand duopolies. I understand how it can control a market. I understand it. I've seen it happen in real life. I also see it in the home construction sort of space. There is kind of a monopoly from a store in Australia called Bunnings. Now, we have other stores, Mitre 10 and whatever else is out there. I think Kmart's recently announced they're going to try to get into the IKEA model. You could even say IKEA is kind of the same thing, even though you can't go there and actually buy proper wood to build your own projects. Monopolies are a problem. I get it. And I think it's justified that Paramount's getting sued to try to stop this merger. But here's the thing. Paramount is getting sued because they don't want to relinquish everything. They don't want to relinquish everything, like things from, oh, we don't want to give up any bit of Warner Brothers. I understand the value. I understand, like, they're looking at it as like, well, we're buying the company. We want everything. We want every asset. But do they really need every asset? This is the case. If it was the catalog, let's say you kept the catalog like Disney did. We are keeping the Fox catalog. We are going to call it 20th Century Studios. But Fox, the network, will operate as its own separate entity. Whatever they make beyond that point is theirs. I think MGM did the same thing with Amazon. Every MGM thing, there are certain things where I think Bond, for a certain amount of movies, everything is Amazon's. And then beyond a certain thing, MGM was functioning as its own company. But there's also this mentality of, we want to keep everything. We want to keep the networks. We want CNN. We want Cartoon Network. We want MTV. We will keep everything. That's the problem. It's going to be a monopoly almost. A duopoly with Disney in there in mind. And Netflix. I mean, Netflix don't really have a cinema arm, but sell the cinema arms of something. Sell the networks. I don't know why anyone really wants CNN at this point, but me and David Ellison wants CNN. Okay. You want to keep CNN? Give up Cartoon Network. Keep the catalog, but give up Cartoon Network. You want to keep Cartoon Network? Give up CNN and maybe give up the other networks, CBS or something. Give up other networks. Look, you may also need to give up IP. You may also need to give up IP. It's just the reality. You may need to give up IP. I did watch John Campion's take on it. There is no way in hell they are going to give up. I'm just going to showcase this. I'm going to showcase it. There is no way in hell they're going to give up the most recognizable face in all of Warner Brothers. The brand ambassador of sorts, to where when you're watching Batman, you're watching Warner Brothers and DC. You're watching Warner Brothers though. Batman is Warner Brothers. He is the most famous character in all of Warner Brothers. With all due respect to Superman. With all due respect. Superman is a massive name. I would say Batman is way bigger. By a mile. Batman's bigger. By a mile. I'm going to get something else. Give me a second because it's behind some things over here. Give me 2 seconds. I'm going to show this because I think this is an example of you keep the catalog and you sell the IP beyond. Now, this is going to be controversial. So stick with me here. You sell this, not to a Disney, not to Disney. You sell this to maybe even not Sony at this point. Not Sony at this point. Don't know about Universal, maybe. Maybe an A24 or maybe a studio like a Netflix where they're trying to get back into into a market of IP. And this is going to be sacrilege to some of you. This is the other face of Warner Brothers. What have Warner Brothers done with the Looney Tunes in the past 2 decades? We had Space Jam in the 90s. We had Space Jam. They did a Space Jam 2 with LeBron. What have they done with this brand? Bugs Bunny was the face of Warner Brothers. Before they got DC and Batman became the brand ambassador and became the face everyone recognized, Bugs was the brand. This was Warner Brothers Mickey Mouse. And what have they done with him in recent years? What have they done? They had a Wile E. Coyote movie. I grew up watching Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote. That was my favorite cartoon as a kid. One of my favorite cartoons. That and Top Cat. I don't know if Top Cat's in that same genre, but Top Cat was one of my favorites growing up as well. I grew up in the 90s. I grew up with all the cool stuff. I remember watching Power Rangers on TV in 95. I'm that old. But you understand what I'm saying. You may need to sell the Looney Tunes. I think if they sold Looney Tunes, and you put it in there with, okay, and we'll also relinquish the networks, we'll relinquish CNN, we'll relinquish, not the catalogue of Cartoon Network, but we will relinquish the control of the actual network, but we want the ability to say this was a Cartoon Network production. We keep the catalogue, we give away the network. MTV, music at this point is basically on YouTube at this point. It's all everywhere, you can access music anywhere. You don't really need MTV unless you're keeping the catalogue. Again, keep Jersey Shore, was the Osbournes MTV? I feel like the Osbournes was MTV. Was that the first one? You keep all the shows, keep the catalogue. But we're keeping the catalogue, but we will sell the network. So some people have control. We'll give the networks away. But you might need the sweetener in there. You might need to put a Looney Tunes in there. Something that's big enough for people to say, ooh. For the people who, the Governor Generals and all that in America saying, ooh, that's a big one. That's a big concession from them. Maybe that's okay. Maybe this is enough. And you might say, the Screen Actors Guild would never accept it. The Attorney General is more or less looking at the competition. It's kind of illegal at the moment. You can't push this deal through because it's too much market control, market share. But if you give up that IP, now I also heard what Campia said, what about Harry Potter? Harry Potter. I could see Harry Potter being given up as well. I could see that. I think there's no way in hell they'll give up HBO. I think there's no way in hell they'll give up HBO. But I could see them giving up Harry Potter. I could see them saying, you know what? I agree with John Campia's take on that. I could see Paramount saying, you know what? How many more reboots of Harry Potter do we have? It's not a rinse-repeat method like the Looney Tunes, where they might say, we'll keep the Looney Tunes because that's rinse-repeat. It's worked. It's a proven method since the 1940s, even 1930s. We will keep Batman and we'll keep DC because there's no way in hell they're letting that IP go anywhere. They are keeping that IP. I could see them selling things like Phantom in the comics. You know, I think Phantom was DC adopted, but I think the Phantom was bought out by DC, and then Warner Brothers now own the Phantom, at least in my understanding. So maybe they sell the Phantom. You know, the Billy Zane. Everyone knows the Billy Zane movie. I could see that happening. Maybe they sell off some of the comic brands. Like, okay, there's other things not DC related, but there's other comics here that maybe we don't care so much about. There are things tied to DC that aren't DC, core DC. But this whole thing of like the Ellison approach of like, we need to keep everything. We need to keep everything. David Ellison keeps saying he wants to make movies. Make movies. You want to do great TV? Do great TV. Keep the 5 greatest networks you have. Keep Cartoon Network. Give away CNN. Give away the news stuff. Like, people get their news in different ways now. You can get your news on TikTok. You know, you can get it on TikTok. Start a new brand. Put whatever you need there to fill that void. But people look at as I mentioned, John Campia, I did watch Campia's video, and he did say, yeah, Disney gave up a lot of concessions. Fox still operates because they had to essentially give up all of Fox while keeping the catalog. That's why it's called 20th Century Studios. They wanted to differentiate it between the network. And yes, it sucks that they had to change the branding and all of it, but it's still operating because Disney had to make that concession to get the deal. But look, David Ellison will not give up Bugs Bunny. I don't think that's going to happen. There is no way in hell you're giving up Sylvester and Tweety Bird. There's no way in hell you're giving up the Roadrunner. Although they did make a movie with Wile E. Coyote and John Cena's in it. I am going to see that movie when it comes out because it looks very entertaining. I'm surprised they even bothered shelving it. Donald Duck and Tasmania Devil, is that Taz? No. Yeah, it's Taz. Yeah. What have they done with the Looney Tunes? I'm being serious. What has Warner Brothers done with the Looney Tunes in past decades? This was the brand at one point. That was what Warner Brothers, that's the foundation of Warner Brothers. That's the foundation of Warner Brothers. When you ask what Warner Brothers was built on, you say, 1920s film and, oh yeah, The Wizard of Oz. I think The Wizard of Oz already is in public domain, so I think the book is in the public domain, so theoretically no one owns The Wizard of Oz, but that 1939 movie is very much Warner Brothers. I look at this and I say, Paramount can relinquish control. We don't need MTV. Like, give MTV to someone else. We will watch it through someone else. That's fine. Music is, give it to YouTube. You're talking about YouTube getting into the whole business of the most watched streaming service on earth at the moment, and you're having them compete with Disney, or not Disney, what's it called? Netflix. Maybe even TikTok say, yeah, we're going to buy an actual channel. Maybe one of the social media giants say, you know what? MTV would work for what we're trying to do. Maybe Apple come out and buy it. Apple Music, that would be a perfect place to pitch Apple Music to. MTV, Apple Music, boom, brand partnership, boom, we own the network, there we go. I can't see it happening, but do you understand what I'm saying right here? Cartoon Network, I think Discovery, because you've got the Discovery assets in there as well. You've got, because it's Warner Brothers Discovery. You have Discovery asset in there. You have all the Discovery assets. Discovery Channel, I don't know if they would give up control of Discovery Channel, because that brand alone is enough to say, ooh, that's, people go back and think of Discovery Channel, the Bear Grylls and all that of Discovery. The Gold Rush, even. You think of Discovery over time. Keep the catalogue, sell the channel. Or keep the channel and look at what it's attached to. Okay, what's the Discovery assets? What can we sell here? TBS. Okay, TBS, TNT, maybe a couple of these. I could see that happening. But is it enough to get below the market cap that is legal and illegal? Is it enough to get below that if you just say, oh, we'll skip up these bunch of networks without IP? I don't think it is. I think you've got to make a concession of a Harry Potter or a... They're not giving up Top Gun. Let's just be clear. They're not giving up Top Gun. I could see that they're not giving up Warner Brothers. They're not giving up DC either. And they may not give up the Looney Tunes. But what else is in Paramount here that I can see right off the bat? I'll see what I can see. Lionsgate. That's an entity of Warner Brothers, I believe. Is it? It's a subsidiary. Or New Line is. I know New Line definitely is, but is Lionsgate independent? Sorry guys, microphone died. I was talking about New Line Cinema. I'm just gonna do this with the phone mic because my little thingy is completely dead, so oh well. But what I'm trying to say here is, what do Paramount have to relinquish? What do they have to give up? I would look at the Looney Tunes. I would really look at the Looney Tunes. And I would say, this is probably, A, the foundation of Warner Brothers, but also, is it a big enough concession to say, well, we haven't been utilising the Looney Tunes for the past few decades. We haven't really been doing everything we could do with the Looney Tunes. We haven't been pushing Bugs Bunny as much as we should. Is that a big enough concession? What's the concession? Does MTV need to be sold? Does the Discovery assets need to be sold? Do the networks like CNN need to be sold? On the Paramount side, what if they sell stuff from the Paramount side that they can concede? We'll give away the studios. We'll give away the Warner Brothers lot. We'll sell what we need to sell. But then you would have the argument of Ellison bought it at a price that he believed he was getting everything. But then you have to satisfy the government to make sure that it's actually legal to make this deal. That's where I'm starting to make the argument that what sort of concessions need to be made here? What needs to be made to get this deal through? Maybe Bugs Bunny. Maybe a few of the Looney Tunes. Maybe you keep the Looney Tunes brand, but you keep the cool ones, but you sell like Marvin the Martian, and like you sell, is it Marvin the Martian? And then Sylvester the Duck, Taz. You could make an argument that some of the Looney Tunes, but you want to keep the Looney Tunes together. I get it, it's a brand. Maybe you sell Freddy Krueger. You got New Line Cinema there. Maybe you sell Freddy Krueger. But you keep the catalogue. You keep the Elm Street catalogue. You keep Robert Englund's great work. But you say anything beyond this point is a new studio. They own Freddy Krueger. They own that IP. They can do whatever they want with it beyond that certain point. What needs to be conceded here? That's the question I'm posing to you as I try to keep this part brief, because I know I'm using the phone microphone. That's going to sound awful. I'll try to do some of my trickery to make it sound better, but it's still a phone microphone. That's why I'm talking straight into the camera. They will not concede HBO. They're not going to concede HBO. Maybe the network, but not the brand. They're not going to concede the brand. Let me know what you think. What do Paramount need to concede to get the deal through? I'll put a couple end screens. I'll put a couple here that also were my original take. As I said, that original take was very much about physical media's side. What Netflix weren't doing physical media, so I very much said, well, if anyone's going to get this deal, it might as well be Paramount. But let me know what you think. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And let me know what you would sell. If you're David Ellison, what are you selling off to get this deal done? Catch you in the next one. Peace. And that's all, folks.